welcome to episode 66 of the Sports Geek podcast. On this week's podcast, I catch up with Rob Squillacioti about the A-League's hot start to season 10 and talk NBA with Francis Leach, as well as technology and stuff.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals.
And now, here's your host, who uses hashtags and thank you cards, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. And I have got a stack of thank you cards to send out, and I'll tell you exactly why in just a moment. My name is Sean Callanan from sportsgeekhq.com. Thank you very much for listening to the Sports Geek podcast. If you're a first-time listener, thank you very much. If you're a long-time listener, I've got a big thank you for you. I just checked the stats as I was prepping for this podcast, and we've passed 50,000 downloads. So that's a lot of hashtags to write in thank you cards. But I will send out a few thank yous on Twitter. Big thank you, first of all, to all the people who have appeared as guests on the Sports Geek podcast. You can catch them at sportsgeekhq.com/SGP guests. Again, very humbled by the response of the podcast and the fact that it has skyrocketed really in the last 15 episodes or so. So October was our record month for downloads. So please send me a tweet. Let me know that you're listening. At Sean Callanan is my handle, SeanCallanan. Don't make me sing the Callanan theme song. And I'll add you to the SGP Army list on Twitter. Every time someone tweets that you're listening, I'll add you to that list, and want to really connect to the people who are both on the podcast and listening to the podcast. So, and if you're a new listener, don't forget, hit subscribe on that iTunes library. That's where a lot of the listeners are coming from and finding us. And I really do appreciate people spreading the word about the podcast. And there's a couple of podcasts that I'm listening to at the minute that are absolute crackers. I don't have to convince you guys how great podcasts are. You're already listening to this one. But if you aren't listening to the Startup podcast, you go to hearstartup.com. It's a podcast documentary style where Alex Bloomberg, formerly of American Life, is podcasting his experience in starting up his startup. It's 6 episodes in. If you love good podcasts and if you love the startup scene and how that all works, it's really worth a listen. Listen to that first episode where he pitches his idea for his startup to Chris Sacca, one of the early investors in Twitter. It's horrific listening, hearing him fall over himself trying to do it. But you can then follow the path that they're doing. They're 6 episodes in. I won't put any spoilers in there, but tell me if you're listening to that as well. I'd love to have people to chat about it each time an episode comes out. And another one from the guys at American Life that I'm really loving at the minute is the Serial podcast. Cereal as in a TV cereal, not as in cereal you eat with milk in the morning, SERIAL. I'm not going to give you any hints on what it is. Listen to the first one, really gripping radio, effectively. It's what radio used to be back in the day, and it's about 6 or so, 7 episodes in. Really worth listening to. And again, tell me what other podcasts you're listening to. I listen to a bunch of different podcasts to sort of stay in touch with what's happening in the sports digital space, what's happening in marketing, and follow it from a different sports point of view. So always looking for a new podcast. As I say to people, widen your ears. Tell people what podcast you're listening to, and if you can include the Sports Geek podcast, I'd be very, very grateful. On today's podcast, I catch up with good friend of mine, Rob Squillacioti from the FFA, the Football Federation of Australia, and the A-League, about the absolute cracking start they've had to the season. 3 weeks in, or week 4 as I'm recording this, is happening now. Rob was on the show 60 episodes ago, way back in episode 6, when we were talking about preparing for the World Cup with Australia's national football team, the Socceroos. So it's good to catch up and check in with him on what has been an amazing start for the A-League, and a lot of buzz around the A-League, especially on fan experience and how crowds are up, but also just the whole total experience and how much passion those the A-League fans are. So we have a good discussion on that. And then later on the show, I catch up with Francis Leach on ABC Grandstand to talk NBA with the season kicking off. talk about Michael Jordan jumping on social media, and then we discuss a new hero in my life. And his name is Rick Wild. Rick with 2 Ks, mind you. If you don't know who Rick is, stay tuned. When I talk to Francis, all will be revealed. So that's about it. Oh, one last call to action, if you will. The NFL Lookbook's on its last run as far as being able to get it for free. It's a 32-page PDF with every single NFL team's website, so you can quickly go and see what kind of calls to action they've got, what focus they have. You can download that at sportsgeekhq.com/lookbook. It's free to anyone who listens to the Sports Geek podcast or is a Sports Geek News subscriber. There will be a new lookbook coming out this Tuesday with the new league. So hopefully you're looking forward to that. If you subscribe once, you'll get all of them for free. If you don't, you can pay for them, but who wants to pay when you can get it for free? Coming up now, here's my chat with Rob Squillacioti from the Hyundai A-League and FFA, talking all things football. Very happy to welcome back to the Sports Geek podcast. Previous guest, Rob Squillacioti from FFA, Football Federation Australia, and the A-League, the major football league here in Australia. Rob, welcome back to the podcast.
Good to be back, Sean.
Well, 3 weeks in to the A-League season. What are you feeling so far?
Oh, look, I think it's been a fantastic start to the season. We've seen some monumental moments in the A-League, 2 being the Sydney Derby and the Melbourne Derby, where we've seen sold-out stadiums, fantastic broadcast ratings, and you know, for us, digital engagement is through the roof. So, look, we're very happy. We've got some work to do to continue the momentum, but at the moment, we're very positive.
Oh, well, I will correct you. They weren't monumental moments, Rob. They were beautiful, because you did spend a whole lot of time in the off-season working on the What is Beautiful campaign and sort of capturing that essence of, you know, this is season 10 of A-League, so there has been a lot of big moments in the A-League so far. What kind of feedback have you had, one, from that campaign, but then also just from the fans sort of reminiscing the 10 years so far?
Yeah, I think having the 10-year, celebrating the 10 years of the Hyundai A-League is really important to us. It gives us, you know, we sat down probably 6 months ago now and tried to work out where that sits, where that sat as part of our campaign, as part of our messages for the current season. And we decided that it was really important for us to let our fans celebrate the history of the league. And that's where the beautiful game, or What is Beautiful, came about. The campaign's all about celebrating the traditional beautiful moments and that jogo bonito, the beautiful game colloquialism that comes with football, but also the raw beauty of the Hyundai A-League. So that means not just the silky skills of players, but also, you know, celebrating the moments of mums and dads coming along to the game, or having particular coaches celebrating their moments along the way, particular moments of controversy throughout the last 10 years. It just gives everyone, I think, players, coaches, administrators like myself, and fans, the opportunity to give their say on what the Hyundai A-League means to them.
And I guess, you know, from the first 3 weeks, I've been getting a lot of comments from people I'm talking to sort of outside the football world and either working in other sports or just regular people on the street, on how much they've felt that A-League has really stepped up another level this year. I think, you know, kudos to yourself and the team, and Damien and the team at the A-League on getting the scheduling right and really hitting the public with the best product in the first 3 weeks. I mean, the attendance numbers have been through the roof. How important is that scheduling and getting that right in the first 3 weeks been?
Very important. We do obviously take good care in the scheduling of the league. We are very conscious that we tend to own the first 6 weeks of the league, so October into November. We've got some fantastic numbers at the moment. Attendance is up 30-odd% compared to our targets. We're looking at broadcast ratings up 25% at the moment, and we've cracked our all-time membership record of 100,000 members across the league. So, look, we're pretty comfortable with where we're at. We're very conscious that there's a long way to go and there's a lot of work to do. But at the moment, with the first 3 weeks of fixtures and the next 3 weeks of fixtures, we're very happy with where we're at and how the season has started. I think one thing to add to that is the success of the Western Sydney Wanderers in the Asian Champions League. Last week, I think one way of describing that victory was full of grit and lots of hard work to beat Al Hilal 1-0. And that's given us another platform to leverage from to say to fans of sport in the country that this is a big moment. To give you an indication of what that's like, from the top of my head, that game will be watched by something like 90 million people when the Wanderers try and take that crown on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the Wanderers. I was gonna refer to Paul Lederer, one of the owners of the Wanderers, and him talking about the success of the Wanderers so far, and how much kudos they've been getting in the short time they've been around. But they're very wary of being overconfident. It's not just because they've got it now, it's going to keep going. And they're sort of, to quote him, it's a brick by brick process. It's getting close. We have to keep working hard. We have to keep making better, not sitting back, resting on our laurels. And I think that's, and I keep hearing that across the A-League. Like it's a continuing growth thing. You've got to keep building on it, because as soon as you sort of say, yes, we've succeeded, then that's when complacency sets in and things fall away. So, he was also commenting the same around the Asian Champions League, to beat, I'm going to get the name right, Guangzhou. Is that how you say it?
Guangzhou.
Guangzhou, yeah. It wasn't close. You're being kind, Rob. They've got 400 million in capital and world-class facilities and players. And, to beat them to get into the final is a remarkable achievement from the resource point of view. So, just the fact that it's not about, full stadiums and terrific supporters and growing memberships. It's something you've got to continue to build on. And I wanted to sort of talk about the attendance. Like I went to the Victory City game at Etihad last week, which was sold out. 43,000 there. David Villa playing in a derby, and an absolute cracking game to have 7 goals, to be 2-2 at the half. And then the victory to pull away. It had everything that an A-League game has, and I think there was obviously a lot of football fans there that know that that's what they get. But I think there was more fans that were just going for the first time, enjoying the game, and realizing like the whole experience that game can offer.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I've been describing that game as if you could bottle that game up and sell it as the A-League, then it's spot on. You're right. It had 7 goals, controversy, fantastic fans, fantastic atmosphere, and it really, moments like that, the beautiful moments you refer to, Sean, are starting to put us on the map. We are conscious that it's the beginning. It's a beginning of a long journey. David Gallup announced not long ago that we are currently in the process of pulling together a whole of football plan. And that's a plan that looks towards the next 20 years for football across every single aspect of the game, not just the Hyundai A-League. So, look, we're like I said before, we're very conscious that it is very positive at the moment. It's fantastic. We should celebrate it. But at the same time, we shouldn't sit on our hands.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that would have caught the attention of everyone at FFA, but to get one of the respected AFL football riders, which is the main code in Melbourne town, to go and ride in the Age, what the AFL could learn from A-League after attending that Melbourne Derby game. And if you listen to it, he said, I've been to 1,500 AFL games in my life and only a handful of A-League fixtures. It was a remarkable, Saturday night was remarkable. The atmosphere was a different feel. And I think that's something it's not, it's a unique to football, because you can read those same stories. If you look over in the US and you hear the success of the Portland Timbers, and the Seattle Sounders and Sporting KC, and the experience for the fans, and it's not scoreboards and it's not blaring music. It's actually the way that the fans can consume the sport. It's very much a football thing as much as anything else, because I've been lucky enough to go to games in Real Madrid and Barcelona. That's how football is consumed, and it's the real true football fans that are helping make that experience. And that's something that is both unique to A-League in Australia, but it's a football thing that I'm sure you guys terribly grateful that you've got these fans so passionate about the code.
Yeah, you're right. I'm a big believer that that's something we should never try and take credit for. It is unique to football, and it's one of our strengths. But a lot of the credit, pretty much all of the credit, goes to the active supporter groups.
Sorry about that. Sometimes you do get technical glitches. We're back. Rob, you were talking about the importance of the active supporters to A-League.
Yeah, I think, Sean, you were talking about the unique atmosphere and how that's part of one of our strengths. And, I personally want to thank all of the active supporters, the leaders of those groups across the Hyundai A-League for really stepping it up, taking it to another level. Like I said before, the Melbourne Derby and Sydney Derby are great examples of that. But we shouldn't forget, groups like the Den in Brisbane, taking us back to the grand final from last year. It was just a phenomenal card display, a phenomenal atmosphere that they really brought to the stadium. So we spend a lot of time talking about how we should foster them, and I just want to personally thank them for bringing that to life and making that one of our strengths across the league.
Yeah, and it is so, as someone that I guess I was in an active support group in the NBL back in the day. Like, it is something you can't, if it's just a group of guys or girls or fans that want to get together and start something, it's terribly hard to manufacture. And that's what A-League's got with the active support. If you look at the SCG cricket test, when all those guys turn up wearing Richie uniforms, you can't manufacture that. It's just they're starting to do it. But when it does happen, it is a bit of that sports biz fairy dust that sort of just adds to the total fan experience. And I think that was the main piece of Rowan Connolly's article in the Age, of just that the total atmosphere of the game, from the crowd to what was happening on the pitch, just made for a better experience for the fan.
Yeah. The interaction between the fans and the players is pivotal.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've seen across the first three rounds of the Hyundai A-League. I think it's if you think about, and I spent a lot of time talking about the psyche of a fan, and that is very different across different subsets of fans. But at the end of the day, everyone wants either a 15 seconds of fame style moment, or they want to be part of the action. They want to be closer, and they want to feel like they're on the pitch or they've scored the goal. So that player interaction is part of how we speak with our clubs, and it really comes down to club culture. So when you're thinking about Western Sydney, when that club first came about, that was really important. It sounds really something that's really small, but having the players go over to the crowd, acknowledge them at the end of the game, and interact with them was something that was extremely important to us. So we hold it close to our heart. It's part of our what our brand represents, and I think the successes of that are starting to be seen, and it is great to see that people outside of football are really starting to notice that.
And another reason, obviously, you're getting back page of the paper and things like that, and growing traditional media. One big change in the media mix that you've had this year has been, it seems like a minor change when you're looking at it in the TV guide, but moving that Friday night game from SBS to SBS One and having that Friday night footy time slot with the guys at SBS. How big of impact do you think have you seen from that, just from a numbers point of view, but then also from that chatter and from people talking about it?
Yeah, look, the change from SBS 2 to SBS 1 was something that we really wanted. We've seen the successes of that in our ratings figures being bigger than ever. The first Friday night was the most watched regular season match in the history of the Hyundai A-League. So that's from a numbers perspective. Just from a general reach perspective, it is really important for the product, for the Hyundai A-League, to be on free-to-air. And we consider SBS 1 as a free-to-air channel. It is great for us to give fans in that outer circle, and if we're talking about fans in the outer circle, I'm referring to the casual fan, the opportunity to access the league, the opportunity to see what the atmosphere is all about, the opportunity to see all the goals and the controversy, and give you that reason to connect with the league. So that's a really important part of our job as the keepers of the league, to then foster that interest and pass that on to the clubs. So we have failed to mention that as part of our What is Beautiful campaign, we've been talking about how we need to market through the clubs, not directly to the fans. So we have a role to play in running a national brand campaign. However, we spent a lot of time with the clubs, and Sean, you were part of this, talking to the clubs about how it is really important for us to have a consistent message across the league. And that beautiful game, the What is Beautiful concept, gives that platform for everyone to jump off.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much talked a little bit about that with Arthur Gillian from Victory a couple of episodes ago in sort of what they focus on. But yeah, as it is a different, when I'm working with you guys, it is a different point of view from a league point of view than it is from a club, because you don't have that innate passion and that identity that is tied to, I'm a Wanderers fan or I'm a Victory fan or I'm a Glory fan. It's not, they are a football fan, but they wouldn't say that they're tied to the league, because they also probably are, they're an Arsenal fan or a Liverpool fan or something along those lines, because it's very much club focused. So as a league, you're very much the facilitator and helping people, become fans and do that, but it's not as direct. There's not that direct line to the heartstrings that a club has.
That's right. Right.
And go.
Sorry, you go.
So one of the things I think also that sort of worked well from a TV coverage, and I spoke about it a little bit with Peter Stringer from the Boston Celtics, how much teams are now using the Facebook video. Brian and the guys there in the digital team have been doing the little highlight clips of here's all the goals you missed for the week, and pushing that out on Facebook. And it's been going gangbusters. It's a really good way for you to, one, consume the highlights, see the great strikes and that kind of thing. Mm. But at the moment, because the opportunity's there, and if you're not putting up your videos on Facebook, you're not doing it right at the minute, because they're offering this free reach type pass. It's worked really well to sort of engage the fans, talk a little bit of a trash on that feed, but share it and show what is what's been happening in the A-League.
Video is the utmost importance to us, is of the utmost importance to us at the moment. I think being able to capture those beautiful moments and deliver them onto our our Beautiful Moments walls that exist across every single club website and aleague.com.au gives us an opportunity to celebrate different facets of the league. It gives us an opportunity to connect with a wider audience, in particular, like you say, on Facebook, where we can showcase those moments. We're doing things like, goal highlights are really important. I guess, as sports marketers, that's pretty standard. But we're looking at, I don't know if you've seen them, but coach celebrations.
Yep.
So there's great little 30-second snippets of how the coaches celebrate the goals. There's fan celebrations. There's fan chants. There's moments on entry to stadium we're trying to capture as well, just trying to showcase the family atmosphere that A-League games bring to life as well. So it does give us a great opportunity to celebrate those different moments and our strengths. It also just gives fans an opportunity to talk about it. And I think it's a great play for us to focus on our core A-League fan, and it's a great way for the clubs to do the same. It's part of our role to help facilitate that and help drive that through each and every club.
Well, I know you've got to head off. You've got a meeting. You've got a big 6 months. We didn't even get to talk about. You've got the Asian Cup and the Socceroos are going to be in action in January. So it's going to be an exciting couple of months ahead for football. Best of luck for the rest of the A-League season. I'm sure we'll probably catch up before then, and also for the Asian Cup ahead in January.
Thank you, Sean. Like you just said, it's a fantastic start to the league. We've got some of the greatest football moments, I think, yet to happen in the country. The Asian Cup is part of that. The FFA Cup final is part of that as well in December. So great chatting.
Sign up for Sports Geek News at sportsgeekhq.com/sign up now.
Thanks again to Rob Squillacioti from the FFA. You can give Rob a follow on Twitter, Rob Squilla. As always, you can jump on the guest page and connect, follow with all the guests of the podcasts. What are your thoughts on the A-League so far? Have you been to an A-League game yet? What do you think of the fan experience, the active support, and all the cheering and everything that goes on that provides the total atmosphere? And also, what are your thoughts on, I guess, my point on football overall as a sport from a fan engagement point of view? I'm a real strong believer that it's the sport that is driving this unique experience, because it's happening in multiple continents at the minute. Obviously, it's an age-old game, and it has been the same, that the fan experience before fan experience and fan engagement were even terms people were using. The game in Europe and in the UK was always like that, with the fans going bananas. Lucky enough to see it in person at Real Madrid and Barcelona, but the same in the EPL and things like that. And that definitely has translated into what the games feel like in the A-League in Australia, and also in the MLS. Lucky enough to go to a couple of MLS games with my involvement with Seat, and we see the success stories and people trying to duplicate, trying to bottle that with stories of Sporting KC, the Timbers, the Sounders, and the like. Is it a football only thing? Can it be duplicated? Can it be replicated in other sports? I'd love to hear your suggestions. As I said, send me a tweet at Sean Callanan, or hit me up on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Sean Callanan Speaks. It's my personal Facebook page where I'm trying to share a little bit more of things that I'm doing in and around, and having a bit more conversation on that page. Been taking some suggestions for the Sports Geek podcast intros. Thanks to Russell Scabetti, Brian Gibson, former guests of the podcast, putting in a few suggestions, and Dave McKay, Lewis Kerr, thanks for some great suggestions as well. I'm going to be sending them off to DJ Joel and get a new batch recorded. So if you've got a suggestion for an intro for the podcast, please send it to me, put it on Facebook, send it to me via Twitter, or even just send it to me via old-fashioned way, via email, sean@sportsgeekhq.com. I'm going to take away the contact form on my website. I'm getting far too much spam, and really, if you can't find my email address, I do mention it on the podcast, and it is available quite easily. Get in touch via that way. Now, caught up with Francis Leach on my regular spot with ABC Grandstand to talk a little bit about the NBA NBA season and introduce you to a man called Rick Wild.
And Sean Callanan from Sports Geek HQ joins us each week to talk sport in the digital world. Hey, Sean, how you going?
G'day, we can edit that and rewind it and stuff, can't we? We're not live here, are we?
Rewind, cut and paste. Yes, sport in the digital world. Sports leader in the digital world is NBA, and the NBA Pass has become the thing.
Yeah,
I caught some good friend of mine at work yesterday trying to pretend he was working, and I looked at his computer, and as he clicked on
the boss key, to swap the screen over.
Up, and there he was.
See, it's okay.
Dan Hurst trying to work for ABC Haywire, not at all. NBA Pass.
Steve, you and I, we can call it research. we can put on it. It's all about research.
It's all about the Golden State Warriors for him.
Yeah. So I was watching the games on League Pass. NBA season kicked off. I had my iPad sitting there on the desk, just as I said, research. I've got to see what the digital channels. NBA League Pass in Australia is one of the highest.
Massive, isn't it?
It's one of the highest subscribers.
What are we paying?
It's around if you go for the full package, it's around $300.
And what does it give you?
You can watch every NBA game, all the playoffs. If you go to the premium package, you also get their live NBA TV channel, so you can just tune into that. If you don't know what to watch, you can just tune into that, some of their original programming. And also it's good because it has a couple of back catalogue games, so you might get an old Jordan game or a Magic Johnson, Larry Bird game if you want to dial back the years. So yeah, it's a really good offering in the fact that you can flip between the home team call and the away team call. And listening to those regional broadcasters are quite funny because they're they're really behind the home team. So if you don't get that unbiased call, they're pretty much barracking as they're commentating. But it's pretty much going to be the only way if you wanted to follow some of the Australians in the NBA. With Dante Exum, rookie for the Utah Jazz, and his new teammate Joe Ingles was picked up just before the start of the season. So if you want to follow how they're going,
they're not going to be on ESPN.
Well,
really?
Most likely ESPN will probably carry a couple of games because Dante's there, but they're not going to be a great team, so they're not going to be on national coverage and stuff like that. But with League Pass, you can watch every single game. So that's the option. And then the other thing is so many different ways now to follow the NBA and get different angles to follow the NBA. And obviously, Twitter is a great way of doing that. And I thought I'd share some of the weird and wonderful follows that you should be looking for this season. One at the top of my list is from the draft rookie class. He was picked number 2, Joel Embiid. He's picked by the 76ers. He's out for the whole season, injured. But he's already brought an NBA All-Star type Twitter game. So he's been on Twitter in the off season before he's even played a game. He's making approaches to Kim Kardashian and Rihanna via Twitter. So he's sort of that Twitter train wreck. You just want to watch because he's going to do something and continue. And he's got a lot of bravado. He keeps giving people updates that Rihanna hasn't tweeted him back yet. So he's bold. So it's
playing the long game with Rihanna.
He is playing the long game. So it'll be interesting to see. And whatever he does, no doubt he'll send out a tweet.
At Joel Embiid?
Embiid. It's with 2 eyes. But yeah, if you pretty much look up the 76ers, website, you'll find him, and it is his name. Another one for some guys that do a daily wrap of the NBA. It's a TV show on NBA TV. So if you had the League Pass, you can watch it every day. But it's also available in podcast form. It's called The Starters. And one of those guys is actually Australian, Lee Ellis, and they pretty much do a daily take of the NBA. But where I like them is that they started podcasting at their fandom of the NBA 7 years ago in their lounge room, just 5 guys talking NBA. And 6 years later, they're now hosting a show on the league, every single night. So, for those people who say, you can't make it to the NBA, Lee, who is just an Aussie, these guys were all the rest of them are Canadians. So they're not even, American guys. They were based out of Toronto, and now they're all based in Atlanta with the show, The Starters. It's a good watch, and you can follow Lee. He's always watching the Twitter, and he shouts out to people, on the show each week. Another one, and we've talked about the analytics and the stat geeks that are they're in sport, and NBA is all over it. Talked about the Sports View cameras that track where people go. One guy, Kirk Goldsberry, is really revolutionizing the way that you visualize basketball players by doing effectively these shot charts that are like heat maps. And so you can tell via this heat map, where Kobe Bryant takes his shots, where he's more likely to make shots. And just by seeing it on the floor, you can see, he likes the left elbow more than the right. You can find out where Stephen Curry's, more likely to hit a 3-pointer and stuff like that.
So drilling right down.
Yeah. So, you see that, it is pretty sort of traffic light type of thing, green and red, and showing exactly where it is, and comparing the different, players of different eras. So he's really slicing and dicing every single, I guess, part of the stats. And that's the thing, it's getting more and more. A lot of the coaches are using it, but it's also coming to the fans and, really interesting from a fan's point of view.
So Kirk Goldsberry?
Kirk Goldsberry. So he works at Grantland. So a lot of his work is at Grantland. Another one that's always, again, he's almost a journalist version of Joel Embiid, Bill Simmons, a massive NBA fan. He runs Grantland.com.
He's been in interesting times at the moment, in dispute with ESPN. He was stood down there for a little while.
Yeah,
he's the biggest brand. I read a really interesting article about whether Bill Simmons' brand is actually bigger than ESPN's now.
Yeah, so he's a real, he's a big journalist, a big name, big podcaster. The BS Report's one of the most downloaded sports podcasts. And yeah, he's been employed by ESPN for about 8 years now, and started this whole site, Grantland, which is underneath the ESPN banner, which is pop culture and sports. And yeah, he got into trouble for pretty much calling out Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, over the whole Ray Rice tape scenario. And he called him a liar and said, "I don't believe it." And he swore on his podcast. They bleeped him out, but that's who he is. He's a passionate fan that's a journalist, and that's sort of why ESPN got him in. But calling out the NFL commissioner and calling him a liar did get him stood down for 3 weeks. But he does not hold back. If he doesn't like the what the officials are doing or what the league is doing, he'll say it. And yeah, it does appear to be a bit of a testy relationship. And there is rumours that he'll just pick up, take his toys and go.
Take his own brand and do his own thing.
And he sort of's got that, almost has that power to a certain degree. So always one to watch. And another one, if you want to look from behind the scenes, and again, another guy that's really big on the Moneyball and analytics is Daryl Morey. He's the GM of the Houston Rockets. One of the big guys on looking at the stats and how it do it. And he's pretty open on Twitter. He's happy to share a joke. And currently he's having a bit of a beef with Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, and they will take that to the Twitter sphere and have the backwards and forwards and the chipping backwards and forwards. So I'm looking forward to seeing when the Rockets play the Mavericks, because Mark Cuban didn't steal. He recruited Chandler Parsons with a quite crafty free agent offer and sort of took him away from Daryl Morey, and so that's where the backwards and forwards is coming. And I guess the other one that we are still waiting to come onto social media, but he did make an appearance this week to start the season, is his heiress, Michael Jordan. So he's not on social media, doesn't have any time for it, but he did take over the Charlotte Hornets social media accounts this week to sort of pump up the start of the season.
Which is his team.
It is his team. He's the part owner, or the majority owner there. He opened up with a comeback joke. His famous words when he came back from the Chicago Bulls on a fax. This just gives you the time frame where he sent out a fax to the press saying, "I'm back." It was just 2 words, and everyone knew that he was coming out of retirement. And that's how he opened up his takeover. I'm back. Lol. Just kidding. So he stepped up the game. He took a selfie, which is the thing you have to do these days. If only Shane Warne would do that with his shirt on. If you're unlucky enough to see Shane Warne's selfie during the week.
Did he have the man boobs out?
He took I'm trying to scrub the eyes. I don't want to give the listeners the visual, but he took a photo, in his bed. And Shane Warne obviously
he does that a lot.
He obviously has a mirror above his bed, which probably tells you a little bit about Shane as well. So yeah, we don't need to see that, Shane, too much. So Michael Jordan took a selfie with his clothes on and things like that. And he's also one of the best trash talkers of all time, Michael Jordan. And Keegan Bradley's a golfer, and he thought he'd have a little bit of a crack at Michael Jordan, saying, how about tell us your golf score, MJ? And MJ fired back with one of the lines he used when he was using playing day. He goes, "Sorry, Keegan, I don't see you wearing Air Keegans. I'm pretty sure you're wearing Air Jordans." You know,
Bang!
It's one. He's
Smackdown.
always one to put him in his place. But I have got a new hero this week.
Yes.
Major League Baseball. Congratulations to the Giants. I'm not going to pick someone from the Giants. I'm going to pick Rick Wild.
I mean, the name, everything, the full package. Rick Wild from Chevrolet, built like Homer Simpson, speaks like Homer Simpson's.
And he presented the MLB Finals MVP. And we've got a bit of a clip of him doing the presentation.
America's most awkward.
At Chevrolet, we have also been proud of the latest and greatest technology in our truck lineup, which is the all-new 2015 Chevy Colorado. It combines class-winning and leading, technology and stuff with Wi-Fi powered by OnStar. I proudly present to you very own set of keys to a brand new 2015 Chevy Colorado. Congratulations.
Do you like stuff?
Yeah.
Said Ralph Wiggum to Lisa one day.
Yeah. So I'm going to use that as my new tagline. I do technology and stuff.
Oh, it's the best. You've got to YouTube it because it's the most awkward footage you will ever see.
Yeah, and to have Bud Selig sitting there on camera, sort of pretty much
Panicking.
saying to the camera, "Who is this guy?" He's almost doing the cutting the, cut the feed type of.
Madison Bumgardner is just standing there going, trying to be polite.
But credit to Chevy. It was obviously everyone was talking about it, and he was trending as Chevy guy. But they came out with some follow up content that says, yes, our trucks have technology and stuff.
Oh, well, good on him.
Yeah.
They've probably turned a negative into a huge win.
Yeah, so
but
very funny.
He looks the part. So you got to see the visuals work.
And it's very tough. He's a lifelong Kansas City Royals fan.
Oh,
His
no
team
wonder.
just lost Game 7, and then he has to go on national TV.
bloke.
So, yeah, you do have to feel for Rick. So he's my hero of the week.
Need help with your content? Book in for a content brainstorming session with Sports Geek now. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/work.
How can you not love Rick Wild? Technology and stuff. I wish I'd have come up with that as the tag for Sports Geek. It's because what we do technology and stuff. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Sports Geek podcast. Again, if you can send in some iTunes reviews, that'd be very much appreciated. We're looking to give away a Sports Geek t-shirt, whether you're doing an iTunes review or sending in some intros. I'm going to look to do some giveaways over the next couple of weeks. Social media post of the week after my discussion with Francis. I'm going to give it to Michael Jordan for the selfie, and the not social media post of the week goes to Shane Warne. Please, Warney, keep your shirt on. We don't need to see that anymore. Sounds the game this week comes from the Melbourne Derby. Talking about it earlier with Rob Squillacioti. Check out the I shared the Auto Awesome video on my Facebook page. If you're not using Auto Awesome, or if you're not using the Google Plus product to back up your photos, you should. If you lose your phone, you've got all your photos. So to turn it on, simply just turn on your Google Plus account on your phone, and say, please automatically back up those. It's smart to do it on Wi-Fi. So anytime you're at a game, you're taking photos, taking video, anything like that, when you get back on the Wi-Fi, it will start uploading it to Google. And so it's a great way to back up. But the little tweak that Google Plus offers is that it provides this Auto Awesome feature. And so what it does, it takes some photos, gives them enhancements, gives you a nice filter on them. And also, if you take a lot of shots in a row, it will automatically provide you an animated GIF of that shot. So now that Twitter offers GIFs, and I know a lot of people are using Tumblr, you can download that and then upload it on other platforms to provide, whether it be fans jumping up and down, or if you're lucky enough to take a couple of shots of a key action sequence, it could come out quite good. So it has that feature. And then it also does this Auto Awesome video where it mashes up all the videos and photos that you've taken to create a little recap of the day itself. Now, it's not going to replace key content. It's not the same as producing the content yourself from a video point of view. But if you do want to have that little quirky time, quick videos, you don't have the time to do it. You're in a, you're very stretched for resources. It is quite valuable, but also if your fans start doing it and start saying, "Here's my auto awesome video of my experience at the game," I think from a crowdsourcing point of view, it's quite useful. Now, yes, there's a lot of blocks there. People have to start using Google Plus and those kind of things. But just from a pure backing up your phone, quite useful. And then some of the surprises that comes up with are quite good. They don't have to be automatically shared. They're sitting there privately. So it's quite useful in that space. Now, you don't want to get caught in the iCloud hacking type of thing. You just have to realize that every single photo you take will end up on Google Plus in your private account. So if you're likely to take those kind of photos, then maybe don't turn it on. Which gives you a prompt to connect with me on Cyberdust. So if you just go to sportsgeekhq.com/cyberdust and you're in the Cyberdust app, you'll find me. But as always, my handle in Cyberdust is Sean Callanan, so just put plus Sean Callanan. If you've got any questions, ask me on Cyberdust. No one will be watching what our answers are, and we can have that private conversation. That clock is ticking to tell me to give you the link for the episode, sportsgeekhq.com/66. Tell you to go and check out the back catalogue and connect with the guests, which I've done a few times now, and also to prompt you to subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on SoundCloud if you're on that platform, Stitcher, Audio Boom, or even just check it out on the player on the website, sportsgeekhq.com/SGP. And you can listen to every single episode just sitting inside the website. So again, send me an email, send me a tweet, tell me where you're listening, what you're listening on. Very appreciative of everyone who is listening to the podcast, and thanks again for helping me reach 50,000 downloads. Our next milestone we're looking at is 100 guests. Currently in the nervous 90s, as they would say in the world of cricket. But looking forward to the next ones. My name is Sean Callanan from Sports Geek, and you've been listening to the Sports Geek Podcast.
Check out which teams work with Sports Geek at sportsgeekhq.com/clients. Find all Sports Geek podcasts at sportsgeekhq.com/SGP.
Send in your sounds of the game. Email Sean at sportsgeekhq.com.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Geek Podcast.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.